All right, thank you very much. My name's Dusty Gedge, and I'm going to talk to you and try and put it in a local Thames estuary context. It's a bit of a joke. I like to do this for John. I'm from the right side of the Thames, Kent, and I come over sometimes to the wrong side. So it's just a bit of a humour, I hope you don't mind. So I'm going to talk to you about habitat, and it's really, really important. And just as a bit of a segue, if you go outside, which I've been going out quite a bit, most of the grass is pretty brown. But where there's green is where the wildflowers are. And that is really the basis of what I'm going to talk to you about. And I got involved in this 27 years ago. I was a professional actor and circus performer, but I was a bird watcher. And I got asked to do a paid bird survey of Deptford Creek, and I found this bird. And the whole of Deptford Creek was being regenerated, new buildings. So we decided, I knew nothing at all about roofing, that we'd shove the habitat up on the roof. And we made a lot of mistakes. But I became the default London green roof expert by accident. So I know a lot about waterproofing now, and I know a lot about structural engineering. I know a lot about roofs. But it all started from trying to deliver for protected species in Deptford. And my colleague Gary will be speaking later. He's on a call at the moment. And what that led to is a campaign to set up the London policy, which was we wrote. We wrote this technical report in 2008. And in 2019, we wrote this updated report to say how successful that policy was. There's about 5 million square metres of green roofs in London to this day. And the basis of anybody who's involved in planning, the basis of the biodiversity net gain metric, which I wrote, is in this other document down there, which we did with Bug Life, the invertebrate charity, who are very, very active in this part of the world, especially down at Corrington, Dubai Ports, I think it's called. And I'm now currently being asked by Natural England to review the metric, and I've got a fight on my hands because height is going to be one of the condition assessments, and if a roof is higher than 20 metres, it's going to be considered poor. That's all the green roofs in London. So I've got a bit of a fight on my hand there. I'll just let you know that. But I've got a lot of people support me all over the world. So yeah, that's biodiversity again. Gary's also, we wrote this, which is the update of the London green roof policy, which is the urban greening factor. And the urban greening factor is now filtering out across the country. I know Manchester's looking at having an urban greening factor. Whatever, these are all policy and planning documents. This is where I have another bit of fun. So I used to be a circus entertainer, and I was a punk for a day. And I always like to say I went from being a punk to a president, which is, my son tells me off, because I was president of the European Federation for 16 years. And I used to sit in Brussels on committees, and I'm currently with Gary on the expert panel writing green roof gardens for the whole of Europe. So I'm a bit of a big cheese when it comes to green roofs, but I'm just a geezer from the right side of the Thames. And just on that, there's the Thames estuary. And you can see Basildon there. And I'm just, hopefully, these slides will work, that's, I don't know why that one's there. Oh, that's Barking Riverside. No, that's, sorry, those two are big brownfield sites, open mosaic habitats, both sides of the Thames. We've got Swell Cliff, which is a massive what's it called? I've forgotten it. I forgot what it's called. Swanscombe, big campaign to protect it. And obviously you've got the one down at Dubai Ports, which are some of the best places in the whole of the United Kingdom for rare invertebrates. So I just put that into context because that's what I'm about. And there's not a lot of brownfield sites now left in London, but the two things I wanted to connect to you about habitat, and it's actually the basis of really the biodiversity net gain, is these other circles. Now, I have been up to Shoebury, but down here by Whitstable is Sea Salter, which is a cockleshell beach. And if you go to Sea Salter in May, that's what a good green roof should look like. And the other thing about Sea Salter is it's a cockle beach. and there is a lot of cockle in Essex. So I have a project hopefully going ahead looking at cockle in Swansea as a green roof substrate. And it's the first time I publicly brought this up, but I certainly like in some way from a local context, could we have a conversation about this? Yeah. So that's why I put that in, and hopefully there's Swanscombe. It was a big concrete manufacturing site. Nobody's going to call that natural, but actually it's one of the best places for air invertebrates in the United Kingdom. Now, this is sea salter, and I'm sure bits of Shrewsbury and Essex. I did try to find a cockleshell beach in Essex, but I couldn't find one. I was going online. But if you look at that cockleshell beach, and that is a green roof designed for biodiversity in the shadow of St Paul's. And that is what I would say we want to be doing. And I brought up the bit about grass is because one of the battles I have is people always want to put grass on a green roof. And grass is the worst thing to put on a green roof because it's dead by April, unless you irrigate it. And if you irrigate something, you're using water. And let's be quite frank, we're in the driest part of South East London, or Grazes, and we're going to irrigate stuff. And we haven't got a lot of water in South East London. So I just highlight this. I do a lot of videos about this. I have a whole series which focuses on open mosaic habitat, vegetated shingle, sand dunes. You've got a lot of that in Essex. We've got it on the other side. Which is trying to say, if you want to find out what a green roof should be, and you want to do it naturally, go to vegetated shingle, which I do one on Minnis Bay with Culver, which is on my side. Do one on sea salter, and I've got other habitats all around the world. I was out in Japan in January, and I went to the Tama River, and they've got a problem there because they're losing their alluvial river gravels, and Tokyo Harbour was surrounded by cockleshell beaches. It's really interesting, these connections you get. So I've got a lot of videos, and the green roof in the shadow of St Paul's, I've got a video about that. I upgraded that in 2008. Now I'm going to get into a bit more detail. So this is back just after the dome was built, but that was one massive contaminated landside, which is Greenwich, where I live near there now. And that had come up at the end. But at the time, the most sustainable retail store in the world was this Sainsbury's. And everybody said, look, Dusty's got green roof. I said, no, it hasn't. It's got turf on the side of it. That's not really a green roof, if you get what I mean. But this is 2000. So I'm just going to quickly go over this. There's several different types of green roofs. And the main types are intensive, semi-intensive, biodiverse, extensive, and sedum systems. And the focus of my work is really being extensive biodiverse green roofs. But however, I have designed a few semi-intensive garden roofs. And just to show you, this one up here is 120 The Garden, which is just on Fenchurch Street, and it's open to the public, and it's really worth going to because you get a great view. It'd be great to take some of your students, if I may call that, to there because it's pretty fantastic. So this is an intensive green roof above Charing Cross Station. It's at 50 metres. That is poor. Just highlighted this problem I've got. Green roofs do a lot of things, and I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but they're very good for air quality. They're very good for cooling down the sea. They're very good at cooling the inside of the building down in the summertime. We spend most of our time talking about how we keep warm in the winter. One of the biggest problems in London is actually a lot of our buildings built are actually overheating in the summertime. So coolth is a really important thing, especially in social housing in London. And we get a lot of summer intense floods, which I'm sure Owen will be talking about in terms of sustainable urban drainage. And the key thing for truss lengths is health and well-being. This is a wonderful roof in Paris, which has now become the community centre for the 23rd arrondissement because everybody goes there and it's open to the public. And that's about health and well-being. I'll come back up to that later when I get into a bit more detail. This is Wells Fargo. So you've got lots of different types of green roofs, like because I'm always a bit London focused, and that's where most of the green roofs are, to be honest, is a library in Birmingham. And I just love that picture of a guy reading a book on a roof in the middle of Birmingham, in October. So we got the urban heat island, we got the cooling, and just look at this summer. We've got a problem with with heat, and this is Blackheath. This is 2018, but Blackheath is completely yellow at the moment. And it's interesting, I was walking up here from the station, and a lot of the gardens here are relatively green. The trouble with Blackheath is really exposed to the wind, and it's the wind in April that actually turned Blackheath yellow. I live on Blackheath. And then there's biodiversity, which is what I really want to talk to you about. So this is a roof in Switzerland I visited, and this is actually a green roof, and it was designed specifically for a rare wasp and a lizard. People say to me, that's not green. It is. It's there specifically for wildlife. So I, with a bunch of colleagues, came up with this idea for the brown roof, and this was one of the biggest mistakes we ever did. There's still brown roof in policy. And the idea of a brown roof was you use crushed brick and concrete, shoved it up on a roof, and let the plants come. Concrete is a terrible thing to put on a green roof. It doesn't hold any water. And I get people come out to me and say, oh, you don't understand what this brown roof thing is. I was the guy who invented it. And I don't mind saying I was wrong. I've already told you about this cockleshell beach, but what I like to do here is this roof. This is on Bishopsgate, and it's 202 Bishopsgate, and the people in this photograph are people who work in this building, and it's the first time they've ever been allowed on the roof, because I did a public tour. And this kind of links with the truss link things, which I'll come to in a moment. And this is one down London Bridge. It was upgraded from a brown roof to a biodiverse green roof. I worked with PwC on this. So the basis of it, as I've already told you, is this. And that is the metric, in essence, and I overview it. And that's how I would suggest, if you're going to go out there, is try to build a green roof that has topographical variety, which is what John does. You go down his garden. Actually, John and I discovered each other, bachelors in green roofs, about 2005. And his wife said, great, he's got somebody you can talk to green roofs about. It's true, that is actually, John. Yeah. And the basis of it, getting into detail, is spiders. And if you don't like spiders, tough, yeah, because you get topographical variety, means you get web spiders in the tall vegetation, you get the ambush spiders down where it's a little bit bare. And that's the basis of it. And this one, Chris is going to be talking to you later on. This is IKEA. So in 2018, Chris installed the IKEA in North Greenwich, which was on the site of the Sainsbury's. And there was a brown roof there, which had been specified as a brown roof. And he said, Dusty, do what you like with it. And so I collected seeds from all over Kent, Sussex, Surrey, London, even a bit of Essex, and threw them up on the roof. And there it is. It's got 148 species. If you go to a green roofing company and say to you, only allowed 48. I've got 148, yeah. And this, again, I'm trying to make it linked to truss links. This is, I used to do these green roof tours on Open Square weekend, and this is a roof on Cheapside. And they get 4,000 visitors every year to this roof. And there's people sitting amongst wildflowers on a roof. And it's really funny the way the policy's gone is that all these roofs designed for biodiversity and nobody's allowed to go on them because we've got to protect the wildlife. I'm a biodiversity professional. And if you go to Berlin, where there's thousands of acres of green roofs, there are lots of social housing projects where there's green roofs designed for biodiversity where residents can sit beside it. They're even allowed to go on it and sunbathe, but there's a little sign, very German, sunbathe different place every day. So you don't, it actually says that, yeah. It's very German. This is a wetland on a green roof. I discovered this in Switzerland, and I've managed to get one on the Victoria and Albert Museum, which has been removed, but also up in Essex and Fisher's Green. Chris, I designed one up at the Valley Visitor Centre, which has got a wetland on it. There were some problems, we resolved it. So you could do a lot on green roofs if you know about roofs. And the trouble is you spend a lot of money on architects and landscape architects who don't actually know a lot about roofs, and they just go to system suppliers. And unfortunately, that's the way it goes. We spend a lot of money on there. And the key thing I want to say here, because Chris is here and John's here, and John talks a lot about revenue. We spend a lot of money on capital. Nobody cares once it's got planning permission of how that green roof is going to be installed, whether it's going to actually deliver what it's going to do. And I've just inspected 27 roofs for Westminster City Council. Not one of them is any good. And that's just the nature of the construction industry. We can also mix solar with green roofs, and this is biosolar. And I'm going to whiz through these because I'm probably taking too long time. But actually you can get an increase in your energy production, that's actually also at the Olympics, that is. It's the largest green roof. You can increase your energy efficiency of your energy production in PV because the green roof cools the panels, means they work harder. You can get about 3.8% more. So it's a good idea. And actually, if you look at this roof, it actually creates habitat because it creates topographical variety because you've got sunshade, wind shade, and therefore you get different plants. So it's a good idea. This is one we did up at Noah's Ark in Barnet. Again, Chris was the installer. I was asked to design it, and I always make sure I get a good contractor. And there you go. It's got small blue butterflies on it, which is the first official record of it. And you can get non-integrated ones, which aren't so good. And if it's designed by a solar engineer, you get a real problem. Because nothing on this roof worked. No electricity was produced, nothing. So I'm out to Wales actually to talk to TFW, which is Transport for Wales, who are going to build the first bar solar roof on their transport hub. And hopefully we will get it done correctly. Sorry to be like this. And there you are. That's where the small blue was found, up in Barnet. And there's the small blue. And there's different ways. This is one in Vienna. They use these pagodas, which have got solar panels on them. And hopefully the first one of these type of biosolar green roofs is going in Westminster. I was asked to help retrofit a project on a tower block, and it's going to be delivered hopefully by Chris in the coming months. And it'll be the first one of this type in the United Kingdom. But it's a very interesting process, bifacial. It's particularly good in Switzerland because they have a lot of snow, and the panels are really good at reflective light. So it's quite interesting. So very quickly, to finish up, there's Greenwich Peninsula now. All those circles are buildings with green roofs. And at the time, I was doing these bird surveys there, paid, and I think there's now more linnets on the Greenwich Peninsula than there were 26 years ago. And there's probably more linnets in London now because of the green roofs. Now, I'm a bird watcher, so I find that a bit moving. Hopefully, I don't know where the linnet picture's gone. Well, it'll come up maybe. And there's the IKEA. You can see the brown roof on the far end where I was allowed to play. And it's really interesting. People go up on the IKEA, or used to, and they don't look at the roof. They look at the skylight. That's what happens when people go on roofs. They look at the skyline, not the roof, which I always find amusing. There's the original brown roof. I collect seeds. And I think for trust things, I really like to chat to this, and John knows I'm really passionate about it. I collect seeds all summer, and I annoy people because people who know me, because I'm dropping seeds all over the house or all the carpet because my pockets are always full of seeds. But I think it's a wonderful thing to get community to collect seeds, spread them, and next year they see what they've done. I think there's a social aspect here, so I'm happy to talk to Trustlinks about that. And there's the linnet in 2019 feeding on the IKEA roof, and I can get a bit moved by that, I can. So there's that was the most sustainable retail store in 2019. I always say, what is going to be the most sustainable retail store in 2036? Who knows? There's the roofs again. Thank you very much. All right.